maybe the best place to start is with this whole tariff situation. I mean, it seems like every time I turn around, there's another headline about tariffs.
Right. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And one of the sources we've got here, a Reuters report, basically says to get ready to pay more for just about everything thanks to all these tariffs. They even gave the example of gas prices going up because of tariffs on stuff we get from Canada.
Yeah.
Ouch. I mean, hasn't filling up the tank been painful enough lately?
Tell me about it. But here's the thing. It's not just about gas or Canada. Like, this whole tariff thing seems to be part of this bigger trend toward protectionism.
Totally. And that's what's making everybody, especially in the global economy, kind of nervous. I mean, when you've got uncertainty about trade policies, it makes it really tough for businesses to plan, you know?
Absolutely. And all this uncertainty is definitely stirring things up internationally.
Oh, yeah.
We found sources reporting all sorts of reactions, from folks trying to stay optimistic to others practically threatening to retaliate. Like, for instance, Bloomberg reported that Christine Lagarde over at the ECB seems to think talking things out with the Trump administration might be a better way to go than, immediately hitting back.
Which, makes sense. Diplomacy first, right?
Right. But then you've got other countries like Mexico who are understandably worried about the risk to their economies and saying, nope, not going to stand for this. They're even hinting at retaliation, according to Reuters.
Yeah. And what's interesting is it's not just countries directly involved in these trade spats that are worried. Like, even New Zealand's central bank is saying, hold on, these tariffs could cause inflation problems for us too, according to Reuters.
Wow. So even way down under, they're feeling the heat. So with all this going on, what are the central banks doing about it? I mean, this has got to be a tough situation for them.
Totally. It's like they're walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
Some of them, like Wunsch over at the ECB, are all about taking it slow and steady. McKee reported that he's talking about these gradual rate cuts to try and give the economy a little boost without spooking everybody.
A little nudge in the right direction. Makes sense.
Totally. But then you've got other central banks like the Reserve Bank of Australia that are like, whoa, hold your horses, we're not cutting rates at all. Bloomberg said they think inflation's still too high and cutting rates would just make it worse.
Okay, so two very different approaches.
Right. And then there's the Bank of Korea, and they're just going for it. They slash rates because they're super worried about, no surprise here, the economic fallout from these trade policies. They're all about trying to keep things stable in all this craziness.
So it's a mixed bag. Some are playing it safe, others are being bold.
Yeah, it's like economic chess out there. Each central bank's making its move based on, I don't know, like their own crystal ball or something.
It's like they're all trying to predict the future.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got tariffs causing global tension and central banks scrambling to respond.
Right.
But what's the big picture? What about the overall economy? Is it all doom and gloom, or is there a glimmer of hope?
The economic data is really giving mixed signals. Like, on one hand, you've got regional inflation going up in Germany, according to Bloomberg.
Okay, so not good.
Right. But then Reuters reports that core inflation in Spain, which is basically inflation without all the jumpy stuff like energy and food prices, is actually going down.
So it's like a push and pull.
Exactly. It's a mixed bag. And, what about the economists? Are they freaking out?
That's a good question.
Surprisingly, it seems like they're keeping pretty level-headed so far. The European Commission says that Eurozone economist sentiment is holding steady, even though they're not predicting much growth. And lending data for the Eurozone is basically flatlining, according to the ECB. So I guess they're cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. That seems to be the theme lately.
Yeah. But things aren't looking so rosy across the pond in the UK. Reuters says that their services sector, which is a big chunk of their economy, is seeing its worst decline in 2 years.
Oh, that's not good.
Nope. And with the holidays coming up, consumer confidence is weak, according to the BRC.
Ouch, that's got to hurt retailers.
Yeah, not a good sign.
Yeah.
So, all this points to a very uncertain economic future. There are some bright spots here and there, but, well, those red flags we talked about, they're still there.
Speaking of red flags, we got to talk about the markets, because this is where things get really interesting. Bloomberg reported that JPMorgan's new equity team is super bullish on U.S. stocks. Like, they're predicting the S&P 500 will hit 6,500.
Wow. That is a seriously bold prediction, especially with all the economic uncertainty we've been talking about. Makes you wonder what they're seeing that others aren't. It's a total 180 from what's happening over in France, where, get this, their bond yields are the same as Greece's.
Whoa, that's not good company to be in.
Definitely not. Bloomberg says it's because of a combination of political turmoil and economic worries over there. So, yeah. not a good sign.
Okay, so we've covered tariffs, central banks, the overall economic picture, the markets.
No.
But there's another piece to this puzzle we can't forget.
What's that?
Geopolitics.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't be a deep dive without some international intrigue, right?
Exactly. And Bloomberg reported that the Biden administration's considered making it even harder to sell semiconductor equipment and AI memory chips to China. Yeah. It's all about, staying ahead in the tech game. But,
Yeah.
it could make things even more tense between the U.S. and China.
No doubt. And while we're on the topic of tension, we can't forget about what's going on in Ukraine.
Right.
The Hill reported that Dutch Prime Minister Rutte thinks Ukraine isn't ready for peace talks yet. And, well, RBC reported that NATO's thinking about sending even more powerful weapons to the region.
It's a lot. We've covered so much ground today. Tariffs, central banks, mixed economic signals, geopolitical hotspots. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is. And it just goes to show, how crucial it is to stay informed, to really think critically about the information you come across and to consider different points of view.
Because these issues are complex and they affect everyone.
They do, even if we don't see it right away.
So here's my question for you. With all this uncertainty swirling around, what are you personally most optimistic about? And what are you most worried about?
Tough questions, but important ones.
Absolutely. Because these aren't just abstract ideas. They're forces shaping the world we live in.
Yeah.
So keep digging, keep asking questions, and stay informed, everyone.
And thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.